Right, good afternoon everybody. By way of reminder, this is a webcast meeting of the Property Subcommittee, Staffordshire County Council, today, Wednesday the 3rd of November 2021, in the Oak Room County Building, Stafford. First item on the agenda is apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Yeah, good afternoon, Chairman. We've received apologies from Councillor DeVille.
Second item on the agenda is declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? Nobody indicating. Third item is the minutes of the meeting held on the 6th of October 2021. Can I have those as a correct record of the meeting? Thank you, Councillor Parry. The fourth item on the agenda is Hagley Park Sports College proposed early surrender of lease. Who's going to take us through that one? Mr. Turner.
Thank you. An item was brought on the 7th of July to the committee around surrendering the lease, which is currently in place with Creative Education Trust for the Hagley Park Sports College. Members might be aware, well, will probably be aware that the Hart School previously occupied two sites, the former Fair Oak School and the Hagley Park site. Over recent years, they've consolidated into the Fair Oak site, and the Hagley Park site is redundant. They're going through the formalities now of releasing that, and part of that is to terminate the lease with us. So members agreed that on the 7th of July. In formalising that with the DFE have said that they don't have enough outdoor space just on the former Fair Oak site, so that the school needs to retain the playing fields from the Hagley Park site. So this is a request to amend that decision so that the school keeps the playing fields from the Fair Oak site, and it is just the the school site itself with the buildings and the playgrounds that returns to the County Council and comes out of that lease. And then there is just a little bit of consideration, which is essentially a legal one, as to how that is transacted. So is it a variation to the lease, or is it a surrender of the lease and release? And the request of the committee is here that we have a legal discussion with the school and the DFE and decide which is the best method to enact that. But essentially that members agree to the school, the playing field being retained in the lease to Creative Education Trust. Thank you.
Before I take observations from members, could I just have input from legal?
Thank you, Chair. Nothing further to add apart from what Ian's already mentioned. I think we can deal with the legalities of it at the end between with the Academy's lawyers. So no further comments.
Finance?
Nothing to add to what's contained in the report, Chair.
Valuation?
Sorry, nothing to add to the report, although we will, of course, be obtaining a valuation of the site shortly.
Okay. Local member? Councillor Kruskonchik.
No comments have been received.
Okay. Right, members of the committee. Jonathan.
No, just to say that I fully support this. Obviously, myself and officers have had dealings with this in the past, and I'm aware that the Deputy Leader and former portfolio has certainly had some dealings with the Creative Educational Trust, but I'm glad we've got to this point now, so I welcome it.
Thank you, Councillor Price. I forgot we're in a public meeting. Councillor Parry.
Thank you. Might be a naive question, but in terms of allowing this part of the whole site to be released, if you like, does it affect the viability of the total site in terms of its future use?
When we had the discussion at the 7th of July, we did go into this a little bit, and the actual value of the former Hagley Park site is a little bit unknown. So there are issues around the playing field, so that bit that we're discussing today in terms of its value and its future use, because due to proximity to the floodplain and also its previous use, it is likely to be unavailable for development. So that's the first point. So there isn't a lot of value, theoretical value, lost to the council in terms of those playing fields. In terms of the rest of the site, there is still a little bit of uncertainty because until the decision with the Rugeley all-through school as part of the development on the power station, until that's confirmed, we don't know whether we will need the Hagley Park site for a future school expansion. If we don't, and then it does become surplus to the County Council's requirements, we will then look into what our disposal options are around that. Now, initially, we'll demolish the school because we know it won't be required. And then we will look at what the options are with the local planning authority. But one thing I do need to sort of advise the members on is that the DFE look for any value that is returned out of former education facilities to actually be spent on future education facilities. So it will go towards our investment in new school places and school extensions elsewhere. Thank you.
Did I hear you right, that the site itself is not considered to be developable simply because its proximity to a floodplain, or is it the green part of it isn't developable?
It's both, in effect.
But why would you, if it's suitable for a school, why wouldn't it be suitable for a hotel or a retirement home or a chip shop?
So the playing fields is the bit that we're talking about. So in terms of its development,
I was thinking about the viability of the whole site.
So
I wouldn't necessarily see the playing fields as, but it may well be attractive to a developer, given that it's got open space, I mean.
Yeah, sorry, I was just looking to see if I could refer you to the plan because there's a previous item. I can't find it straight away. But in effect, the place where the school buildings and the playing fields are is separate from the playgrounds is separate from the playing fields.
Okay, so on the plan I thought there were
Apologies. Sorry, just to help, the plan's on page 17, if you need to have a look at that.
pretty close to me.
It is pretty close, but they are detached because they only touch in the corner, and access to that playing field also is sort of quite challenging. So that's what's formed our view in terms of its value for other kinds of developments. It just doesn't exist really. We're not placing any significant value on it. Bearing in mind the former use for playing fields means that they'll either have to be re-provided somewhere else, or certainly the normal Section 77 10-year rule means that there isn't any development value of that land. That's our view.
Councillor White.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yep, so very familiar with this site and familiar with the two sets of playing fields, and I think the children often hop over the brook to get from one set to the other. So I'd be surprised if you could build houses on there, knowing the area. The simple point is the school have not quite got their sums right in terms of how much playing field space they need. They need this. We're here to help our schools. And particularly to make sure that we've got appropriate sports provision. So for me, it's something that we simply need to get on and agree to.
Councillor Price.
Yeah, it was just a point of clarification for Councillor Parry. And as Philip has alluded to, the fields sit slightly lower and are at the back of the site, which Paul and I visited during lockdown. But the school site itself is developable. It is on a slightly higher site as well, so you can do something with that.
Any further questions from members of the committee? I'm going to move forward then to recommendations. It is recommended that the recommendations of the subcommittee from the 7th of July to surrender the academy lease to Creative Education Trust for the whole site be noted. Second, that a new academy lease be granted to Creative Education Trust for the playing field land shown tinted in yellow on the plan at Appendix 3, or a partial surrender of the existing site be agreed to allow the school to retain the playing fields. And the third recommendation is that any and all actions to implement this decision be delegated to the Assistant Director for Commercial and Assets. It's so moved. All those in favour?
Agreed.
That's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Moving forward then to agenda item number 5, which is the Cannock Household Waste Recycling Centre proposed lease. Councillor Thompson, you're very welcome. It's good to see you here. Have a local member present at the property subcommittee. So the way we normally do this is we listen to the presentation of the report from officers, and then I'll call you in to make your comments as the local member, and then members of the committee will deliberate and come to a determination. So that's the usual format, as you've just seen happen previously. But it's not often we get a local member turning up, but it's lovely to see you here. Thank you for coming. Mr. Turner.
So members will be aware that the management and delivery of the service from the household waste sites has changed. We terminated the contract with FCC a couple of years ago. It's in the temporary arrangements, and then we're sorting out the permanent arrangements for operating them. On one of the household waste sites, the one at Cannock, there is what's referred to as a reuse shop that is occupied by Catherine House Hospice. So this item is essentially to regularise, now that we've taken back the household waste sites, regularise their occupation. So it's a short-term situation to do it. It's an undervalue because we're proposing that they only pay a peppercorn, in effect, rent. Up until March 2023, and as I say, it's just regularising the situation so it can continue while permanent or considerations for the longer term use are considered by the council. Officers from the service are here if you want to ask any sort of specific questions of them. Thank you.
Legal.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to note, the current occupiers, they'll have protection under the Landlord and Tenant Act 1954 because they've been in occupation for quite some time. And if we wanted to terminate that occupation, we'll have to, argue over using the premises for our own use, or we're looking to redevelop. Otherwise, we won't be able to end their tenancy. Granting this lease will allow us to terminate on a 3-month notice, and it will be excluding the 1954 Act protection. So it's a good idea going ahead with this.
I always like a rundown of the 1954 Act. No, inside out. Finance.
No additional comments, Chair. Thank you.
Valuation.
No further comment from me, no. Not from what's written in the report.
Councillor Thompson. Any comments?
Just what was written in the report. I think it should just stay the same at the end of the day. They've not caused a problem. They're doing what they should be doing. They're helping save money in the long run. So I just think that it should stay the same. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. Councillor Parry.
I think it's a brilliant idea, and it's if it was doable, sort of remodel it in all of our sites. There is a great opportunity for reuse recycling in our recycling centres. The problem is the public don't get access to it. Anybody goes to a recycling centre on a reasonable basis, you see things very often that you have value or you probably reuse yourself and thinking, I wouldn't mind dragging that out actually because I could sort that. But there's so much stuff that goes through recycling centres that is reusable. All we need is a model, is a method of doing it better, because I'm not quite sure if we do maximise that opportunity, and for a local charity to benefit from this as well, and particularly one that's a respected charity like Catherine House. This is, for me, it seems like a good public service and a good way for charities to raise some money and a good way for the environment to benefit from reuse and recycle. Is there some comedy in there? Did I miss it?
I've just got visions
of me
visions of you skip diving in our local household waste recycling centres. But, did you? Oh, got comment? No. Anything else from members of the committee? No. Is that a reused laptop you've got there, Councillor Parry? No. Okay. Well, thank you very much indeed for the comments. It is a great idea. I think Councillor Parry captured it really neatly, and I'm all for this sort of thing because it plays to the environmental agenda. It supports a local charity, So, you know, what's not to like, really? And it regularises our legal arrangements with Catherine House. So the recommendation is to approve the granting of a lease of part of Cannock Household Waste Recycling Centre, Litchfield Road, Cannock, WS11 8QN, to Catherine House Hospice for a term commencing on the 20th of March 2020 and ending 31st of March 2023 at £1 per annum. All those in favour?
Agreed.
That's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much, Councillor Thompson. You're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but if you've got other things that you'd like to be doing, like listening to a steel band down the road for those that can hear it, then... Oh, excellent. Right. Thank you very much indeed. Right, moving on then to agenda item number 6, which is the exclusion of the public. I move that the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business, which involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in the paragraph of Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, indicated below. I so move.